Good morning, everybody. It is now 9 o'clock, and welcome to the Charlotte County Airport Authority meeting for September 16th, 2021. And this meeting is hereby called to order. And I would, first of all, like to remind everybody to turn off or silence your phones, please. I'll do the same. And our first action is an invocation, giving thanks, and a pledge of allegiance, which will be led by Miss Oliver. But if you could stand for prayer, please. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we take this time to praise your holy name, and we give you the honor and the glory of all you do for us here at the Airport Authority. We especially thank you for the hedge of protection that you provide for our operations and our facilities and our employees. But we come together now as an airport authority, and we just give you thanks and honor and praise for all that you do for us. And we know it's not by power, not by might, but by your Spirit. And I ask this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Commissioner Oliver.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Miss Amy, if we could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Andrews.
Here.
Miss Oliver. Here. Mr. Hackett.
Here.
Mr. Hurston.
Here.
Mr. Carr.
Parrish.
No, Parrish.
Here.
Sorry. Mr. Hansick.
Here.
Miss Coppola.
Here.
Thank you, Amy. At this point, we will accept citizens' input. Anyone wishing to address the board during this portion, you should state your name, and you are allowed up to 2 minutes unless I extend it as chairman. So do we have anybody who would like to speak? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jerry Goen. I'm the owner, along with my wife Janet, of Gulf Contours. Excuse me. As you know, I was here for the emergency meeting requesting that the Airport Authority grant us an extension on our lease, which was denied. I subsequently have sent a letter to you, Mr. Hurston, which I hope you shared with other members of the commission, asking you to rethink your position. Gulf Contours, in my previous statement, we were unable to give you an assurance that we would vacate the premises within 1 year. In this couple of weeks that has passed, we have had some options given to us that we were not available of before. Some available in this county, some not. But I would like to have you reconsider your decision based upon the fact that, I will read a letter that I received from one of my customers up in Sarasota County. It is a relatively large closet company by the name of Closet Tech. The owner is Terry Uthank. And she says to me, and I believe it was also directed to the Airport Authority, I own a closet company in Sarasota. We are a family-owned company and have been in existence for 18 years. For the last 9 years, we've been using Gulf Contours for all of our tops in home, offices, media centers, and drawer fronts. They have a very unique product, and only Gulf Contours produces, which makes our company extremely vital to our business. If they have to close down for relocation purposes, then that stops our jobs from being installed. We are extremely concerned. I would also like to add that Goins work extremely hard for their company. They put their heart into it. It says a lot about them as individuals, which is why I wanted to write you. Let's keep small businesses like Gulf Contours surviving, as my clients do from our company. I ask you to please consider our request on behalf of me, my wife, my employees, which are here in the back of the room. And I also would like to suggest to the Airport Authority that maybe they consider getting into the ability, based upon your unique location here, of building buildings that are available to companies like mine, and let's promote some small business expansion, not just the big ones. You really don't realize how unique you are here because of the availability of the 463-phase electricity that comes down the road, and also the amount of land. I just ask you to please reconsider your decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goings. Anybody else in the audience who would like to address the board? Yes, sir. Good morning.
Morning, John Miller. I'm here today as a private citizen, not representing the city. I'm here to ask you to extend the lease for Golf Contours for at least another year. I would look at it from three different aspects. My comments will be from three different aspects. First, the Goins are a friend of mine. I've known them for many years. They're solid citizens of this community, have done a lot of things for the community in addition to the Golf Contour products. Now, sometimes Mr. Goin can be, well, he is tough, there's no question about it, in his dealings. Sometimes stubborn, and sometimes that causes some friction. But he is very honest and trustworthy, and I believe what he says he will do to his best as he can. Secondly, I've actually been a customer of Golf Contours. I don't do it anymore, but had a small remodeling business of kitchens, bathrooms, and his products are excellent, first class. I don't know if there's any others that are any better, certainly in the area. There aren't any in the area. And that brings up a big issue for a lot of small businesses in Charlotte County particularly, but you just heard Jerry talking about someone from Sarasota. He has customers all over the country. But for those locally, they do not have any other options, or very few if there are any, to get this kind of a product, doors and drawers mostly, so that they can continue their contracting business. So what's going to happen if they leave is that they'll have to find someone else. They will be able to probably find someone else eventually, but it's going to cost more because of the transportation primarily. And also I've noticed in my dealings that they are the most reasonable company around it because I've shopped to find the best company to use.
Mr. Miller, please, you don't have to cut it off, but if you could hurry up, you're over 2 minutes right now.
I am? Sorry, I didn't know
that. Oh,
that.
that's all right. You're fine.
Okay, well, let me just finish that part. So it's going to be much more costly for the small businesses in this area. Finally, just from the perspective of coming to this authority for the last 2 years, I've listened to all the rhetoric, all the excuse me, my voice is gone, all the issues concerning Golf Contours, and I totally understand the business decisions that you've made so far. But I think it's very important for this community that we keep this business here, or hopefully in a year they will be in another location close by. So there are all kinds of good reasons why you should extend this lease. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Mike Rodehaver. I'm a resident of Punta Gorda. I'm also a customer of Golf Contours and have been for about 10 years. They do good work and they make a good product. From what I understand, you, the board, want Gulf Contours to relocate or basically vacate the building they're in. Gulf Contours is asking you for an extension to find some other location and move their equipment. What I'm concerned about is that your action is going to put 14 people out of work. It's just not 14 people, and as you know. There's an extension, there's spouses, there's children. There's more than just 14 people in a business. This is a small business. It's a good business. I'm concerned that there are veterans and there are disabled in that 14 people. As you know, Punta Gorda is big on veterans. We have the Vietnam Wall, we have the Military Museum. We go out of our way to help veterans. Do you really want it on your shoulders that you put veterans and disabled people out of work for the sake of this small building, dilapidated as I can see it? Is there something so pressing in what you're doing, so demanding, that this must happen within the next year? From what I see of the building, and I'm over there occasionally, it needs to be torn down. I wouldn't want to work in it. What are you going to do with it? Why can't you simply give them time to relocate? Give these 14 people a job. Give their spouses and their children the fact that their dad can bring home some money and keep them going. I just don't understand your thought process.
Michael,
And I'm sure I don't.
You're at the 2-minute mark. Keep going.
Okay, and I'll end with that. I'm asking for you to extend the lease for Gulf Contours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Would anybody else like to address the board? Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
I'm Nicole Griffin. I'm an employee at Gulf Contours, and I just pleaded and asked you to please extend our lease for one more year. I have 4 kids at home, and Jerry is not only a businessman, but he's a family man, and he's helped me a lot in the 6-7 years I've been there. So I just plead and ask if you could give us one more year.
Could you please state your name again? That was kind of muffled. I
Nicole
apologize.
Griffin.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. All right, anybody else like to address the board? I do not see anybody rising, so we'll move on. Mr. Parrish, we're going to move into additions and/or deletions to the agenda.
I would like to add under my report an update on the Gulf Contours lease.
And that would be 14E.
14E.
All right, we will add the Goins report. Anything else, Mr. Parrish?
That is it.
All right, very good. Ms. Disquin, we have an employee service recognition.
Good morning. I have Keith, the FBO manager here, that will give the award. David Tort is our FBO quality control technician, and he's been here for 5 years. David?
I'd like to present this to David. I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity for guys like this to be employed. He's a superior employee, and he's also a great guy. He's bringing a lot of knowledge to us, and I'd like to thank you guys for supporting people like David. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's. How about a nice pose for a photograph? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, at this point, we'll move on to our consent agenda, of which we have 5 items, I believe, on that agenda.
Mr. Chair, I would like to pull the Blackbird Aviation Group lease, please.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Oliver. We'll pull Blackbird Aviation lease. Anybody else like to pull anything else? All right, the chair is ready for a motion on the remainder consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Andrews.
Second?
We have a second from Kathleen. All right, further discussion on the remainder consent agenda. Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. We will now, Commissioner Oliver, the Blackbird Aviation.
Sure, I just had a quick question as to any updates regarding this group. Last I heard was, I think, a few months ago. They had not incorporated in Florida. I see that now that they have, they do list their principal at place of business as on the airport property at that 7355 Utilities Road, Unit D. And just was hoping for an update as to what's going on with that land.
I wish I could give you one. This is they requested an office here so they could start doing business at the airport. Last I talked to them, which was 2 weeks ago, they have gone from 60 acres to 10. They do not have a site plan. They do not have a business plan to share with us at this point. But we have an office available for them. They asked for a year to use it as their place of business to get the rest of the business plan put together and hopefully start an MRO on the airport.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I'm sorry, Mr. Hackett. Yes, sir.
Motion to approve that?
Yes. Yes, I'm looking for a motion to approve the Blackbird Aviation lease.
I make a motion to approve the Blackbird Aviation.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hansick. All right, is there any further discussion on the Blackbird lease? All right, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We will move on to item number 9, which is the adoption of our budget resolution. Mr. Parrish.
So the board at the last meeting approved the preliminary budget for the year 21-22. The budget resolution is presented, needs to be approved prior to approving the budget. Resolution 2021-03 is in your packet.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. All right, we have Resolution 2021-03 in our packet.
Mr. Chairman, as Secretary Treasurer, I'll make a motion that we move forward and adopt our budget for 21-22.
Thank you. Thank you,
presented.
Commissioner. As presented. Thank you, Mr.
Budget
Commissioner.
resolution?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Kathleen. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously.
Then subsequently, I guess we have to actually adopt. I'll make the same motion to adopt the FY 2021-22 final budget.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, we have a motion for the adoption of our final budget.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Andrews. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. We will move on then to our Secretary Treasurer's report, Mr. Hansick.
Okay. Up on the screen, and usually I go through this fairly quickly, but I want to give everybody a chance to take a look at the screen. This is kind of a synopsis of our budget, our operating expenses, and there's further detail on our website that you can go in if you really want to look at the various accounts. But overall, our revenue to date is $13,455,913. The budget year to date is $11,257,759, which is a variance over budget or positive of $2,198,154. On the expense side, the expenditures date is $8,908,514. budget year-to-date is $8,838,255, and we're under our expense budget by roughly $70,000. And the operating gain and profit year-to-date is about $4.5 million, with a variance of $2.1 million above the budgeted amount. And you can see all the numbers there. Like I say, if you're interested in getting into the minutia of the budget and where the money goes and where the money comes from, it is available on our website under the minutes of the and agenda items for the airport board.
Thank you, Commissioner Hansick. Mr. Parrish, would you like to expound?
Sure, we can go on to accounts receivables. If you review what was given to you in your packet, total accounts receivables about $77,000, of which $70,000 is 0 to 30 days, which we kind of don't count it since it's still not terribly past due. And of that, $10,000 was paid by Worldwide Flight Services. And Lamar is paid in full. They were at 91 and over. So significant decrease in that. And we're on track. I think as the economy is getting better, things are also getting better. And you also receive both July and in June, I believe, June and July or August. So, and if you look on that one, it's also, all of them are paid in full, and things are getting somewhat back to normal. If we go on to the income statement, as Commissioner Hansick reviewed, we continue to operate a little bit better than our budget, with our revenues exceeding our expectations and our expenses slightly lower than expected, but on track with what we presented at the beginning of the budget cycle, and hopefully we can continue that into next fiscal year as we wrap this one up in a few days. Our balance sheet continues to grow, total net assets of a little over $120 million. That includes a lot of land, a lot of buildings, and as we build on the north side with the General Aviation Center, the new ramp, the new T hangars and taxiways, or T hangars and box hangars, that'll just continue to add to that. Any specific questions?
Any questions for Mr. Parrish? All right, hearing none, do we need an official adoption of those into the record?
No.
Very good. All right, we will move on then to our committee reports, and we'll start off with Mr. Hansick and the Punta Gorda City Council.
Okay, no report other than they're going through some issues that they have. There's no relationship in those issues with the airport authority. Most of you are aware of their issues as published in the media.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have any questions for Mr. Hansick? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on then to the Board of County Commissioners. Mr. Andrews.
And I have no report this morning.
No report, very good. We will move on then to the next committee is the Metropolitan Planning Organization and the Economic Development Committee. I represent both those committees. With respect to the MPO, we're holding we're holding a special meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock in Murdoch. We are interviewing for a new MPO director. We have went through that process once here recently, and we did select a candidate who worked out a contract with the county through the HR department, but then he had to turn it down for other personal reasons, and so we had to start the search all over again, of which we've advertised and we've selected people qualified, and we're going to be interviewing those people tomorrow at 3 o'clock. If anybody would like to attend. MPOAC, that's our state board. I did report on that last meeting, and the next meeting's in Orlando in October. And with respect to economic development, it is what I'm seeing through my company is a lot of activity around the airport. And what's interesting about the people that are coming in and talking to me and asking me questions are actually, a majority of them are from out of state, and they're moving to the area and trying to get their business operations going again. But so and I'm sure, I see Commissioner Deutsch is back in the back. I'm sure he can attest to how busy it is. I know they had a land use BCC meeting yesterday that I don't think was over till about 7:30, 8 o'clock. So there was so many things on the agenda, it just lasted that long. But it's hard to keep up with as a private business owner. But so that's my report. And does anybody have any questions? All right, we'll move on then to our community. Commissioner Cole.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I had a pretty busy month. I went and was asked to speak at an interesting new group that's forming in Charlotte County. It's called the Republican Liberty Caucus, and they meet once a month up at Perkins Diner, if anybody's interested in coming up and giving a listen. They asked me to speak about the airport, which I did, and it was a very, very nice, very interesting evening. They're a good group. They believe in liberty and the Constitution, and they seem very pro-American. So that was an interesting night. Also, I belong to the Women's Club here in Charlotte County, and they're doing a Field of Heroes. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but you can purchase a flag from them, or if you have already purchased a flag, and they will fly it with your veteran's name or whoever you would like, military name, fireman, policeman, anybody in service, and they will fly it for 1 month in a field, and it's called the Field of Heroes. And the flags will be displayed at the Liberty Community Church on Veterans Boulevard. So if anybody's interested, I have a few forms here if you'd like to fill them out. And if you've done this before, you can bring the flag back, and it costs $10 to fly the flag, $40 to buy the flag, but you keep the flag. So that was a very interesting evening. Also, Charlotte County is offering free passport pictures Saturday, September 18th from 8 a.m. to noon. So if you have a passport that's expiring and you want to go and get your picture taken, it's free. I think they charge about $40 otherwise. So that's, again, at the Justice Center, Marion Avenue here in Punta Gorda on the second floor, Saturday, September 18th from 8 a.m. to noon. So that's my report, and if you're interested in any of the flag flying or buying or whatever, let me know and I'll let the ladies know. But they're a good group, a very good group of people. And the Liberty Caucus was an interesting evening also. Thank you. I'm done.
Commissioner, thank you. So it's Republican Liberty Caucus is the name?
Yes.
And they meet every month, you said?
Yes, every month at Perkins, the second Tuesday.
At Perkins, okay, very
Yeah,
good.
at 7.
That, and what was the Liberty Community Church? Where was that located?
Which one?
The Liberty Community Church with the flags?
Oh, all right. I just had that. Hold on. Field of Heroes. Liberty Community Church on Veterans Boulevard.
Veterans.
I don't have an address, but
All right, very good, thank you.
yeah, and I have a form here, a couple of forms if anybody's interested.
I'll take one, please.
But I thought that was very nice of them to do that. They've been doing it for a number of years for our veterans to
Well,
remember.
Thank you,
A
Commissioner.
fireman, policeman,
Sure.
anybody you'd like. And they do good work. It's a group that when they make the money from different things, they do auctions too, and they do meals, the most delicious Italian food I've ever tasted. These women can cook. And absolutely delicious. You can eat it there, you can bring it home, and I've done both. And they take the money and then they help Head Start. They help a lot of different veterans. We go at Christmas in July to the Veterans Hospital and also to the Veterans Hospital at Christmas time, bring presents to everybody that's in the hospital. So they do a lot of good charity work. They wrap Christmas presents in the mall. You give them a couple of dollars or whatever you need. They'll wrap your Christmas presents. All you guys out there who hate to wrap your wife's gifts, they can do it, make them real pretty. And that money also goes to the Head Start or other charities that they believe in. So it's a good group, a very nice group. Anybody wants to join, let me know.
Thank you, Kathleen. All right, we will move on to our State Legislation Committee. That's Commissioner Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, next week is committee week, and the legislators will be heading up to Tallahassee. I understand Mr. Parrish is flying up for the Florida Airports Council Legislative Fly-In, October 19th through 20th. I've received information about our joint appropriations request with the school board for a $3 million for a building for the CTC, and I am confident that we will work out the details. But our next regularly scheduled board meeting is our last chance before the legislative delegation meets, so we need to have everything finalized at that meeting. Otherwise, that's the end of my report, and Mr. Parrish wants to add anything about his trip to Tallahassee, that's fine too.
Mr. Parrish?
I wish I was flying to Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Driving to Tallahassee. But no, the Florida Airports Council is excited to get back to Tallahassee. Last year, everything was virtual. Most of the items that are on FAC's agenda are the same as last year. The biggest one is the work program. We are concerned about PFAS. We're trying to get some state legislation written before it becomes a major issue. You guys may or may not be aware, PFAS is a chemical that is in the AFFF, which is a required additive to our firefighting foam, and it has been deemed a hazardous material, but there is no alternative for it yet approved by the FAA. The FAA has been working on an alternative for multiple years. ICAO has approved one, but the FAA has not. So, it is hard to comprehend being held liable for the use of something that the federal government required us to use and still requires us to use, and is in styrofoam and is in Teflon and is in a lot of the,
It's bad.
So, we're working on that. We would like to, we want to work with them to get it out of AFFF, but we don't want to be held liable for what is really an unknown. There's no way to tell what the point source is. It is a forever chemical. It is really hard to get rid of. And if you find it in groundwater, there's no way to tell that it was from AFFF or the county's old dump that was at the end of runway 1533. So, it's one of those things that's important to airports across the nation, and we're working with New York, Airport Council, California, and Texas, which are the four biggest, to try and get both state and federal legislation passed that would not exempt us from the cleanup, but from the cost of the cleanup, if any. Beyond that, fuel taxes are another thing that's always on the agenda. The airlines always want to delete them, and we always want to keep them the same. That is the tax that's paid into the trust fund that funds aviation grants through the FDOT.
All right, thank you, Mr. Parrish. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, I just, on that chemical, is that, you're saying it's man-made or it's?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
And they can't find a way to unman it?
Well, it's a part of the foam system that we use.
I know. There's been a lot of controversy about it getting into our drinking water lately, too. Yeah, but they're working on something to, alleviate it, or?
Basically, they're working on an alternative so that we're no longer required to use it.
Okay, we've got a lot of good minds out there.
Thank
Oh.
you.
They should.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any,
Yeah.
any additional questions for Mr. Parrish? Everybody shaking their head no. We will, thank you, Commissioner Oliver, for that report. We'll move on to Mr. Hackett's attorney's report.
Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to be here on behalf of Darrell Carr, who's out of town today. I don't have any specific report relating to ongoing legal activities, but as a member of our legal community, I'd be remiss if I did not note the passing of Judge Ken Hamons, who passed away a couple of weeks ago. Ken was a huge member of this legal community in Punta Gorda and Charlotte County since he graduated from the University of Florida Law School in 1960, moved down here to become partners with Drayton Farr. He was a wonderful advocate. I've often said that if somebody told me that I had to be in a courtroom in 15 minutes to fight for my life, there's nobody I would want better than Ken Hamons to be there to take care of my business. He was a member of our law firm for over 30 years. He was appointed by Governor Childs as a county court judge. I think it was 1991. He remained there for probably about 18, 19 years, something like that. Had a couple of elections that he won. Retired from the judiciary and was a huge presence in our community. His love of the city of Punta Gorda and Southwest Florida was undeniable. And I would acknowledge his passing. His service is tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the United Methodist Church, First United Methodist Church in Punta Gorda. So I just wanted to share that with the community at large and the board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, we will move along. Thank you, Mr. Hackett. James, let's get into your CEO report.
Certainly. The development update, as usual, Mr. Eidenauer has provided a fairly verbose development update with a one-page in the front overview. There is a lot going on. Runway 422 rehabilitation and reconstruction has basically kicked off. The grant was signed last week. It's a 100% grant from the FAA, a little over $14 million for the rehabilitation of the runway. Also includes the total package includes wetland mitigation that is PFC funded. We continue to work on the T-hangars and the box hangars on the ramp. We hope to restart that project in November. We put that on a 90-day pause to try and get the supply chain back up and operating, and it appears that that was a wise move. Things are freeing up. We're seeing steel deliveries. We're seeing wood deliveries. Prices have come down, at least in the wood market, considerably. And then the general aviation ramp and general aviation facility is under construction. I would encourage you guys to drive down Challenger, take a look at it. The rafters are going up, so the project is at a phase where it's going to start to move a little faster. The site work is significantly complete. Woodlawn, which was the last piece of the 1533 project relocation, has been signed off by the county, and we are in the process of doing all the legal work of the swapping of lands and reserving of easements, and Mr. Hackett is working on that with us right now. Any specific questions on development? I'll try and answer. Ron's not here. He watches this from his desk so he can continue to do other work. If not, I'm going to pass off marketing to
Hey, good morning, everybody. Just a couple quick things. Tomorrow we have the Charlotte Technical College's Aviation Mechanic Training Program Grand Reveal, and you've all RSVP'd to that, so thank you. Please arrive by 10:30. And it's over, you'll park in the orange parking lot, and you'll walk right across Skylane Way to the mobile unit. And there'll be folks out there volunteering to help guide you as well. And Chair Hurston is going to lead the invocation and the pledge for us, so thank you for doing that. It is an invite only, just because there's limited space and it's a secure area and a ramp, so you have folks that, it's not a public event, so folks have to be on the list and have RSVP to attend. Friendly volunteers that are members of the Civil Air Patrol are going to be helping man the ramp to ensure that people don't walk out into the taxiways, runways, which is good. And also October 18th through 22nd, TSA PreCheck mobile enrollment is going to be coming back to the airport, parked across from the snack shack in the short-term parking lot. And that's where folks, the public, can sign up for TSA PreCheck, which helps them get through security lanes quicker and easier. And that's a 5-year program that's $85. So if you fly a lot, that's a great program for the public to enroll in. And there's more information on our website under the buzz at flypgd.com. So if y'all have any other questions, let me know. Thank you.
Okay, do you have any questions for Kaylee? James, are you still up to bat?
Certainly. The aviation report, Mr. Mallard, do you want to take that?
Good morning. August traffic, we had 98,296 passengers, and year-to-date so far, we're about 25% over the previous year, so we're doing quite well. October 8th, we start service to Minneapolis with both Sun Country and Allegiant on the same day. So we'll have basically 4 flights a week, and then starting in January, it'll go to 8 flights a week. November 17th, we start Bentonville service, if you want to go to Arkansas. And then November 18th, we pick up Austin, Texas. So great on that side. On the fuel side, just a note that on the tower count, we're up 20% for the month of August. And we had 3,200 gallons on the avgas, so that's an increase, and 10,600 on the retail Jet A. The air carrier side, we're up about 23,000, and we currently have 54 people on the waiting list for hangars out there. First quarter of this 2022 looks exceptionally well with our airline schedule, so doing very well.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? I have a real quick question, or just a observation, I guess. If you look at our passenger count for, I guess it was June and July, those were record months, believe it or not, if you go all the way back to 2007. And our count for, I guess it's August, I don't know, I may be, this is a little hard to read at this scale, but our latest count was our second highest ever, going all the way back to 2007, so we are doing well.
So they like us, huh?
They like us, but staff's doing a great job, is what's most important.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is exciting that things are looking like they're getting back to normal, and as I spend my days staring at curves for the virus, I think we're going to see some relief as it looks like we're trending down.
Does Sun Country fly to Islip?
Sun Country, not from Punta Gorda, but we always talk about Islip, and that'll be on our list when we go to Vegas in 2 weeks.
Good.
All right. You're still up, James?
Yes. I just want to bring something up that we've been looking at. We asked one of our consultants to do a real quick study looking at alternatives for the rental car center and rental car expansion. This is basically our existing conditions. If you look at the terminal, short-term, long-term, and our what they labeled economy, although it's just more long-term. And then the rental car spots. So there's about 3 acres, a little over 3 acres of return and ready, and the rental car center. Next slide, please. If you look at our historical emplainments from 2010 through our estimates for 2022, we're at about 900,000 emplainments in 2022. So if you go to the next slide, you look at the master plan forecast, and keep in mind that the master plan forecast is based on FAA numbers. The FAA considered us to be around 841,000 emplainments in 2036, and 100,000 emplainments on a peak month in 2036. And as someone pointed out, we beat our emplainment numbers for our busiest year, which was 19 this year, 2 months already. So We're already exceeding these numbers, so we want to look at some options so we're not really behind the curve. And as many of you saw the newspaper, there was a thing that why don't we expand the terminal? It's crowded, and I will admit, when there are 10 planes leaving in 60, they usually leave in 10-minute intervals, it does get crowded in the terminal. We have more seats per gate than most airports provide, but most airports have multiple gates that are not being used, so there's a little more opportunity to sit down. What we're trying to do is, as you approved last month, the OTA for baggage handling, and then this month, this discussion is plan for that future expansion and make sure we can do it when our funds are available and there are federal funds for building the baggage handling system, which is theirs. So next slide, please. So we looked at a couple of possibilities, and from the master plan, the future rental car expansion was in the current location, and it would take out Building 207, which we were planned on relocating to the new general aviation facility. Building 207 is a privately owned hangar that we would then relocate those tenants into a new facility and modify their lease for that facility. But we started talking, is that the best thing to do now? So we had them look at this, and go to the next slide. We narrowed it down to a couple of things that we could do. Basically, the master plan says we need 5 acres, which we currently have about 3, for QTA, which is the quick turn facility for them to fuel, wash, and prepare the car for the next user, and for the ready lot and the return lot. And then about 12 acres for storage, and that's where we're really lacking. That's why you see cars parked in the grass across from the next to the FedEx facility. Oftentimes in the field where we now have our 3rd long-term parking lot, previously and in the field just to the east of that facility. So next slide. We looked at a couple of options. We looked at 4 or 5. These 2 floated to the top. Basically to turn the area across from the FedEx facility, across from Golf Course and next to Airport Road, into a ready return and rental car center with potential storage behind that, and then across from that in the lot or the area behind Pulsafeeder. Those are vacant right now, and they are shown in the master plan as potential long-term parking areas. That would also allow us to move even across the swale into the TNC staging area, maybe pave that as part of this project and have that as more storage and TNC staging, getting rid of a building that needs to be torn down. So this is option 1. Option 2 is almost the same thing. It just kind of reverses where the rental car parking is and the storage. Staff's kind of looked at it back and forth, and option 1, which I think is actually alternative A, would work better with transportation, drop-offs, pickups. We're right now running shuttles about 50% of the time to long-term parking lots. This would require constant shuttling to the rental car center and to the parking lot, so we would have to increase our fleet, probably buy some newer buses and man them. A lot of that could be paid with a transportation charge added to the rental car, as well as the potential of increasing the CFC to build this new facility. Not something we need to vote on now. It's something I think staff needs some time to get through the numbers, make sure this is the best idea, then put some dollar values to it. We do have some estimates for the construction. I'd like to get those a little tighter before we bring back anything. But just let you know that we're looking at this. I think it's important, as we have almost outgrown the master plan, that we start to think outside of that. And let's not do something that would, I don't want to build a facility that would then you don't want to tear down, even though it's in the way. So this is just, what we're doing to keep slightly ahead of the game. This, the idea of this is you would also keep 207. You would recapture some of the building that's now being used for a rental car center and some other landside functions that we have two hangars in there that could be recaptured. That would then take the 6 that we were setting aside for 207 and the GA facility. Those would open up, as well as the 2 that are no longer being used as part of the rental car center. So that's 8 new hangars, potential to lease to other GA users. So there's a lot of upside to this. And we're still putting all the numbers together to see how it's going to affect our future budgets, and then we'll look at CFC income as it seems to be getting back to normal a little. And we don't want to do anything now because we're trying to figure out how the industry is shaking out. This goes into our Toro negotiations, and with Enterprise and Turo kind of joining together for some state legislation. It concerns us that Enterprise may want to use a different model like Turo, where they're no longer owning their cars, they're no longer storing their cars, they're no longer repairing their cars, but just using someone else's car. And so the industry's in flux. With Hertz coming out of bankruptcy and the pandemic, I think there's a lot of things we have to consider, but staff is constantly looking at other ideas. So, and this is one that I just wanted to bring forward and show you guys some of the options that we're thinking about. And we'll continue to refine this and bring it forward at another meeting. Any questions on that?
Jim, quick question on how big is the pulsifeeder track?
I believe it's just under 5 acres.
They own that, is that correct?
They own the building. It's a land lease, a very long-term land lease.
What's the possibility of going to pulsifeeder? They may need a more efficient operation where we would, buy that area or buy out of what we have going on and move them, get them into a different location. So they could capture some money plus maybe get into a better lease.
There is some opportunity there. Pulsifeeder's very happy where they are. We've talked to them many times in the past. If you'll recall, those of you who have been on the board a long time, that 5 acres behind them used to be in their lease for expansion. A few years ago, with one of their renewals, they gave that up, leaving it for possibility for us to use. We can talk to them. I don't know that they're going to be. They're finally using the whole building again.
Now, is this their headquarters, or is somebody located, the big guys located somewhere else?
Yeah, this is just a small location for them.
I got you. And could you go to the 2036 chart, our master plan projections? And Jim, and we've talked about this before, but the 1,094 peak month, that's for the year 2036, and that was based on required FAA calculations. We couldn't.
No, so the FAA,
sway that.
the terminal area forecast, which basically shows growth, is determined by the FAA. There is an opportunity for us to go in and change that, but when we talk to the FAA about the possibility of changing their forecast numbers, they were not inclined to look at any of the data we were giving them. I will tell you that we have gone from 0 growth to, I think annualized, it's about 3.5% on their estimates, and they update that every year. One of the things that hurts us, if you go back one more slide, I think it may show. So if you look at our annual emplainments, we are very up and down, and they look at that as something that's not stable. I mean, you can't be at 89% one year and 33% the next, and 97 the next, and have them, in those jumps a few years. But, so they give you a number, and that's what we went with. And, we knew we were going to, we hoped. I won't say we knew. We really hoped we would exceed those numbers, and
knew.
it has proven out.
All right, thank you, James.
Sure.
Oh, I believe you're still up to bat, James.
Sure.
A couple.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Might mention, we discussed the CRC, Consolidated Rent-A-Car Facility, some time ago, and now is the time to really look at it. And I think it's important for people to realize that all the rent-a-cars go in there, and you got, I assume you're going to have a design that's going to have common use of fuel tanks and wash racks and any mechanics and their back offices and all that. So it's just not just a big parking lot. It's a really operation.
Correct. No, it would combine both the QTA facility that's now on the south side of the airport, as well as what is currently in the old hangar facility, into both the rental car parking, ready return, QTA, back office, combine the windshield operation that's next door possibly into one large facility.
Your initial planning is that we'd shuttle rather than the rent-a-cars run the shuttle bus?
We have not had any conversations with them about it yet. It would have to be a group decision on their part to run a consolidated shuttle. I think right now, with the extreme differences in the number of percentages leased by Avis, Budget, Hertz, and then Alamo National Enterprise, it's going to be easier for us to run it than to have them pay a percentage, and then they would ultimately pay for it under a transportation fee.
Yeah, and you could divide it up based on the percentage of market and all that crap.
Stuff.
Okay, most airports have gone to this with accepting the growth.
Yeah, I think as you look at our growth, the linear terminal has its benefits and its detractors. But we're going to have to expand the terminal both to the north and the south in the next 8 to 10 years. So this is one thing that we can do now, look at in the next 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years, whatever it turns out that we're going to need to do. It's just when you pull the trigger, and I want to make sure we have the planning documents in place.
Yeah, because these things are fairly expensive, but they do work more efficient. And you get everybody in one place. You mentioned the terminal expansion. Has anybody readdressed the question of getting more room in that thing by expanding into the parking lot? I know we're going to increase the roads and all that kind of stuff. And if I recall, there was a proposal at one time to look at expanding the terminal building into the parking lot and getting away from the narrowness of it.
There was a proposal to put all of the landside activities, at least the arrivals activities, in short term. It's not something that we've walked away from. It's just not in the near term.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. James, I think you're still up. Any other questions on those issues? Thank you, Jim.
Certainly. So as you're aware, we received a letter from Gulf Contours requesting a 1-year extension of their lease with a guarantee that they would be out at the end of their lease. I have not presented anything to them because I just got the information, but I did send some information to the board about leasing requirements, and I got concurrence from everybody to go ahead and work on a 1-year extension. I've talked to Mr. Hackett, and we believe it's probably best if we wait until Mr. Carr is back so he can help draft that. The FAA requires an indexing of leases, so we'd probably go with a CPI index, which is about a $300 a month increase, $350 a month increase in the rents for that building, versus the fair market value, which is about a $2,000 a month increase. So we'll work on that, work on language to make sure that if he finds a place earlier, that the lease can be terminated with 30 days notice, so that he's not, in having to pay the rent continuing.
That's generous.
And we need to also, make sure that the taxes and everything get paid by the end of the lease, so that we're not on the hook for any of that. But I've got, concurrence from the board through talking to everybody that that's the direction we want to go. So that's the direction I'm proceeding, and I hope to bring that lease signed back to you next month.
Very good. Thank you, James. Any questions for Mr. Parrish? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to old business, our state lobbyist RFP selection. Mr. Parrish.
So the board requested that we go out for an RFP for state lobbyist. We put that out on the street. We were very successful in getting people interested in the lobbying services. In front of you is the scoring sheet. The 5 board members did the scoring, and so it is the board's decision if we want to move forward with putting anybody of them under contract to do lobbying for us.
Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
This was
Commissioner Oliver.
Ms. Oliver's
Thank you.
effort.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. As legislative liaison, I would like to make a motion that we approve Capital Access and Jerry Paul and continue with a written contract for their services. They have a proven track record of success with not only this airport, but in the entire community. He's brought in over $6.3 million to this community just in the past few years. This year, we're asking for a huge lift. That is a $3 million ask that we're asking of the state legislature. And I think that he has the track record to prove that he is up to the challenge.
So that's a motion.
It is a motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I'd second that motion. The scoring was so close on everything, and of course, Mr. Paul's been historically our guy, and I think his price is good. So I'll second the motion.
Very good, thank you, Commissioner. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
No, I just agree with Commissioner Oliver and Commissioner Hansick. The price, proven track record.
Yep. Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, we have a motion and a second. We've completed our discussion. Is there any further discussion from anybody? Nope. Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Commissioners. Where are we at, James?
New business.
New business.
I will go ahead if that is your
Yes, go
question.
ahead, go ahead, Mr. Parrish.
We are we're the only airport that we can find that offers an annual pass. The annual pass has been in place for a number of years, and it started when we had a long-term parking lot that was empty, and we needed a way to make some revenue, so we started selling annual passes. The idea has always been that it was an encouragement for people to fly more often. What we're seeing is it's more of a long-term parking pass where people leave their cars here for multiple months. We have over 100 people on the waiting list for these. We sell 100 a year. It is significant income. I won't deny that. But it is also because of the way it's been used as a long-term parking pass, we end up having to jumpstart a lot of cars. We've had cars damaged from mice or rats eating wires in the parking lot when they sit for a long period of time. So it is cumbersome, to say the least. What we would like to do is, over the next year, transition into something you see a lot more than a long-term parking pass, which is and what do we call it, a rewards program where the more you park, the less you pay, so that we encourage in and out parking and more traveling. So one of the things we'd like to do is increase the rate for the next year to cover some of our costs, and then the next year terminate or kind of sunset the annual parking pass and move more into a rewards program in the future. So. And Beth is here, who handles all of that, if you guys have any questions for her.
How much are you going to increase?
We'd like to increase it from 1,000 to 1,600.
Mr. Parrish, do you have any data on the number of those 100 who are using it as just long-term and leaving their cars here for months at a time?
We really don't track the in and out. We could. I mean, we have the data. We had to install a specific system just for those long-term parking, so we can pull up the data. But I would say anecdotally, it's 50% just based on the number of cars that we see parked long-term.
Are there any other options, rather than raising the rate 60% in 1 year, to, as far as rules go, to try to restrict that if that's what's causing the issues?
We really don't have any mechanism to track how long the car's been in there. I mean, we could definitely put a person out there running a report weekly and find out which cars are there. We don't do any license plate recognition. We don't do any daily drive-throughs to the parking lot and log every car. I would say that if you stay in our long-term lot all year, it's $3,400. With the monthly pass, which we do offer, which we encourage people to get, which is good in both parking lots, by the way. The annual is only good in the orange lot. It's $2,100, so we're just trying to get the annual closer to the monthly and trying to encourage people to use it more as a multi in and out type of pass. One of the things, and one of the reasons we've gone to different technology and trying to change it, is we found, honestly, a large number of people abusing the system, handing their card off to somebody else, erasing the expiration date on the card, and then writing in their own expiration date, and then trying to tell the people, well, our card's not working. We found somebody who had done that multiple times, and so there's been a lot of fraud and abuse of the system, and it is really difficult for us to continue to manage. And I don't think it's financially a good decision to add an extra person, add a LPR, license plate reader, to a golf cart and manage that daily. It's just, I think the transition to a rewards program is the way to go, and I'm going to let Ms. Pardell work on that over the next year. I mean, the options are, we could leave it the way it is, increase it another rate. This is just what we thought would be the best, kind of a in between what the monthly pass is and what the annual long-term would be.
Thank you, James. Robert? Yes, sir.
Is it worth monkeying with?
Yeah.
Is it worth having, period? No. But it is something people like. I mean, we got rid of it 1 year, and you guys heard about it, and we put it back in place.
That's true.
We don't take a daily inventory in our lot now.
We do not take daily inventories.
Seems like it's more difficult to manage this than the airport.
Well, Beth spends, half her time managing the parking lot and half her time managing the terminal, and the terminal is obviously a more dynamic thing, but this does
facetious.
take a lot of time.
It's pretty comprehensive.
Well, rewards program would be a good marketing tool.
I think so, and so, that's our goal, is to transition into that over the next year.
Yeah, and it takes us off the hook that we don't have anything.
Yes.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Commissioners. All right, staff tells me we need some type of motion for the annual parking pass holder rate increase.
I make a motion that we approve the long-term parking, or the annual parking pass holder rate as presented.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Andrews. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second from Commissioner Capola. All right, we have a motion for approval and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
Yeah, just a question, would we be better off, until the rewards program gets in place? Politically, I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
Leaving it the same, or?
Leaving it the same until we can put in the rewards program.
I would say we want to index it some. It hasn't changed in multiple years.
Just a question, okay.
I would be more inclined to go with some sort of indexing. 60% jump in 1 year just seems like a lot, and that's, it's going to be a shock to the system for our customers who really enjoy it and are not abusing the system.
How do we handle the abuse? Beth?
We give them your phone number.
Oh.
For the
write it on your
annual
windshield.
pass holder, it's a sticker on the windshield, and people pass their vehicle off to other families and other friends, so there is abuse within the annual pass program also. The reason for the increase, it will fall in line more. We have monthly pass holders that buy 12 months for the $2,100. So there are people, they are willing to pay that, and $1,000 is significantly low. So I think we're just trying to get more in line with our other rates that we have. Like James said, there's no other airport that offers an annual pass program. It is a good customer service feature. We looked at getting rid of it again, but we figured we would have some rebuttal to that. So we came up with this other option, and then the other option down the road is the rewards program.
Thank you, Beth.
Sure.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and we have some discussion about indexing. Are we going to modify our motion, or are we going to keep it as is?
I'm going to keep it as is.
Keep it as is. Very good. Kathleen? Keep your motion as it is, or your second?
Yeah.
Very good. I'll call the question. We've had our discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
All right. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you. James, our
Certainly.
proposed meeting schedule.
So it's the time of year that we have to publish our meetings for the next year. And so I presented a schedule to you similar to last year's and the year before, where we meet 10 times, plus we'll have multiple workshops. The budget workshop is in there, and we will schedule through the year other workshops as necessary. But March being our busiest month of the year, and July being another month of the year that we struggle with, people, that school's out and people are taking vacation, so it's a good month to miss a meeting. The county does August, I believe, and so this is what we presented multiple years in a row, and just need to motion to approve so we can advertise it or change.
All right. Chair's ready for a motion or discussion.
I move approval of the schedule as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Second.
We have a second. Is there any further discussion on the proposed schedule? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. All right, we'll move over to a discussion on our October meeting.
And I don't, honestly, I've looked at a lot of things in those. The October meeting unfortunately falls on the day I get back from my Tallahassee trip, the day before I leave for Leadership Florida, the weekend after Air Show. So I was hoping to move it, but honestly, after looking at my schedule even more, we're in Vegas the week before we get back, or actually we're in Vegas 2 weeks before. We get back, start the air show prep, then I leave for Tallahassee. So there's no good time to move it. So honestly, it's on there, it's scheduled, and we'll just leave it where it is.
Very, very good.
It's still scheduled for the 21st.
Yes.
It is scheduled for the 21st, yes.
All right, thank you, James.
Staff is not going to like that because we'll have to do everything by phone, but we'll get it done, no problems.
Well, when you have a great staff like we do,
do
it
have a great
should
staff,
be
and,
easy. Should be easy.
Well, why don't you just go and see what happens?
Just
Yeah, just okay.
no, can't do that. So no, we'll prepare everything we need. One of our thoughts was to just not have an October meeting, but with the legislative workup still needing to be completed for our our request this year is $1.5 million from us, and then the school board's going in with $1.5 million. So it's kind of a joint thing, us working with it. The board meeting may be really boring, so people are going to search on the internet. So it's exciting that this is one thing I've talked to Mr. Albritton about, Senator Albritton, and multiple governments working together is something they're really into. They like to see it. So I'm encouraged. It would also help them expand, and they are going to be over their current capacity shortly, and they've already had a request to put in a couple of extra modular buildings next to their current modular building. So they're moving along. So we're excited about that, and I think we need to have an October meeting to get all that in place. So I'm not going to change it, and we can move on to the next thing.
Very good. Thank you, James. We're going to look at the Beechcraft Avenue repair. Mr. Parrish.
Yeah, if any of you guys have driven down Golf Course Boulevard and taken a left onto Beechcraft, you'll notice that the road that I believe was put in the 70s and has been cut through multiple times is in not great shape. So we have requested some bids to overlay it. Sunland Paving, who's one of our tenants, has given us a quote. Basically, he was under he was under 25,000. I think we're going to look at some leveling, some removal of asphalt and replacement. We have some alligator cracking at the curve as you go into it. We have some pushing. We have some other typical asphalt failures. So I think it'll go in excess of the 24,000. That was to level a few areas and then just overlay it. I don't want it to fail again in the near future. So I'd like the board to approve $35,000, not to exceed, for that repair, and then we can get that completely done in next month. And I'd like to do it next month while we're still in our slower period.
Yeah, there's no rain.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. Chair's ready for a motion on that activity.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to allow CEO Parrish to enter into an agreement for repair of Beechcraft Avenue and other miscellaneous road repairs around the airport campus with a not-to-exceed price of $35,000 as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second from Kathleen. Is there any further discussion on this issue? Jim, I just have one question. Do we own the asphalt plant where Sunland is?
No, if you notice, Sunland tore down their asphalt plant. We
I
own the
didn't
land
notice.
it's on.
Okay.
Sunland has been buying their asphalt from multiple sources, usually Ajax.
Okay.
But they are, we have for years had an ongoing contract with them for pothole repair. We never had an indexing for pricing of asphalt in there, so we have not used that in a long time because I think asphalt was much less per gallon than it is today when we put that in place. So it's probably something we need to look at in the future, near future, is going out for another one, and we'll get copies of the counties and the cities and kind of look at how they index things.
Thank you, James. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Parrish, Air Center Hangar.
So as you recall, we have gone out for a design-build contract to prepare plans to build a hangar next to the FBO, which is now known as the Air Center. This would be managed by the FBO for use by itinerant and long-term users, where the FBO would be pulling the planes in and out. We have, I know I don't like that either, but that's, that when you have a hangar managed by your FBO, that's what's going to end up happening. We do carry hangar keepers insurance. So when you get hangar rash, you can have it repaired, but we have an excellent staff, and I'm hoping we won't see that. So to take the project to the next level, which is to get us to a guaranteed maximum price, we've negotiated a fee of $152,390, which will get the civil done, get the architecturals to a spot where the contractor can give us the maximum number it's going to be, and then we can move forward with construction if that is the board's decision. But what you see is a preliminary rendering, office space up front, a 120 by 100 hangar in the rear. It fits well in the hole left in the parking lot. For this, we would be looking at putting another hangar next to it, maybe similar to this, for another one of our tenants who would build it himself. And then the spots to the east of that were kind of held for Western Michigan and FGCU, and that's where we would look at putting the hangar for the AMP program in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish.
Question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Commissioner Hansick.
We're going to operate the building, which I think is probably a good idea, at least make it available for some of our transit corporate guys that want to put their multi-million-dollar jet inside during the sun. My question concerns itself. Somebody coming along and say, boy, I'd like to lease that hangar, and I want to put another maintenance facility in, or a new avionics shop or something like that. I see that as a distinct possibility. Once the building is up, it's going to probably attract some business interests, and then that defeats what you're trying to do. Maybe we should build two.
I think there's a distinct possibility that we will, that I will come back to the board and say, let's double this. I would like to get the GMP first.
Yeah. But again, to my original question, if somebody comes in and say, hey, we want to lease this building and for other purposes, for an aviation purposes other than what the building is intended for, do you see that happening? Would you?
So if that happened, I would present it to you guys, and it would be your decision. I would prefer not to do that. I think if we're going to run a first-class FBO, we need to have a hangar space.
You got to have the facilities and the tools to do it. I agree. Okay, I'm just curious.
Jim, if we approve this, that's the elevation that they're going to move forward with?
No,
or that's just a potential
That's just a concept.
Okay.
They presented a few. Obviously, it's going to be similar to this. This is kind of matches the FBO next door color-wise.
Okay.
I know I've talked to Commissioner Hansick about some parapets to kind of level off that roof, and those are things that we'll discuss with the architect as we move forward.
So that must be a flat roof with a parapet up front over the offices, or we don't know?
Yes. In
It
front of
is?
the offices, that's a flat roof with a parapet.
Okay. All right,
I'll make a motion, so you can get into any further discussion if you want. I'll make a motion that we approve the design-build contract with, who's it with?
OAK.
OAK as presented.
Very good
And
thing.
the amount of, was it $152,390?
$390.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Andrews. Is there any further discussion? I would just like to say one thing. Page 8 of the, I guess, the Phase 2 scope of work, can we, up at the top, under E, can we get rid of Charlotte County Utilities in that? Because we're definitely all City of Punta Gorda with respect to utilities. That's my only comment. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing.
Yeah, so we don't have a contract. This is a proposal. We're going to prepare an AIA design-build contract, just, as well. Let me go ahead and execute that.
Yeah, and I'll add to the motion to authorize the CEO to execute the contract.
That's in my notes right here that I haven't turned to.
Thank you, Amy. All right, Mr. Andrews, you want to modify your second?
Yes.
Very good. The motion has been modified, and we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries unanimously. James, a spec building in industrial park design build.
Yeah, so as I've mentioned in the past, and specifically the last minute meeting, I've been talking to some developers about the opportunity to build some spec space in our industrial park, and I just laid out a few sites. What I'm considering is a 100 by 400, 500, the exact dimension has not been completely determined, but 100 by 400 is a common size that people are building. As you can see, some of our lots are better than others. Honestly, I like the 4 grouping or the 2 on Piper Road. The 4 allow us to build one and then mirror it over and build another, and then if successful, build a 3rd and a 4th, or a private developer come in and build a 3rd and a 4th. The one along Cheney and Piper would be more visible to people coming down Piper. The one in the back would be more visible for along the interstate. So my goal is to get something to a guaranteed maximum price stage. So what I would like to do is get the board's opinion first, and then approval to go out for a design build proposal, and the proposals would be based on qualifications and the cost to get it to. So we're not going through a 2-stage process. The cost to get it to 60%, which would give them the opportunity to give us a GMP. Based on everything that I've talked to 3 different contractors now, I think we can build these buildings in the range of $4.5 to $5 million each. If they rent for $12 a square foot, that would give us a return of somewhere between 8 and 10%. That is assuming a 5,000 square foot chunk with 0 build out. So these buildings would be designed to be divided into 5,000 square foot pieces. You can see here, and this is just some drawings from another one that's being built in the area. They can be broken up. They would have 2 bathrooms each and a front door. that would be all that we would be providing, and then anything else would be negotiated. Any interior build-outs, either the tenant could do it or we could do it, and then amortize that through the term of the lease. What I'd like to do is put it out on the street for design build, get some pricing, and then bring that back to you and make the decision if we're going to build anything. The airport has not had spec building space since this building was built.
Right.
So it's been a while. And one of the things that we've struggled with in the county is high bay facilities. Most of the facilities here have lower ceilings. People need higher ceilings for rack storage, for manufacturing.
Jim, would these kind of mimic some of the stuff Benderson's doing? Or would they be that high?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, as you can see, it's 22 in the back, and 27 in the front.
Do you have to add, I'm sure you probably do, hurricane-proof?
These buildings will be
Buildings
designed
to do that.
To the,
Does that add a lot to the cost?
It adds significantly to the cost
Yeah, I
of
would
building
think
in
so.
Alabama. But, I mean, everybody's got to do it. One of the options that we have, and I've talked to the contractors, is doing a tilt-up building. Tilt-up would add probably $500,000 to the total building. I think there are some advantages to it. A metal building is something that has a little more maintenance. The metal contracts and expands with the sun, so you get screws falling out. It is definitely something that we will look at as we move forward at the design. I think tilt-up, which Benderson does a lot of the tilt-up, I think in most of their buildings is a little higher end product, and so it may be something we want to look at.
Jim, and metal doesn't appraise as well as you get out around the 10, 20, 30 year.
No, I agree. There is definitely a I won't be here in 30 years to maintain it, but there is a maintenance issue, going forward that you could not deal with as much if you did tilt up. And we typically have built tilt up or solid masonry. On this height, you wouldn't want to do a masonry wall.
Tilt up, I agree with you. That's the way to go. It costs more, but it's maintenance free probably. The roof also, what do you call those?
The TPOs?
Yeah, TPOs on top. And they're very attractive buildings too when you look at them. You don't have to paint them and all that kind of stuff.
Jim, go back to the site plan, please.
Certainly.
I'm not so sure I'm crazy about the corner of Piper Road and Cheney Way. I think that's going to be a premier spot.
I agree. I just wanted to throw two in there. Obviously, I was cutting and pasting blocks yesterday, and
Sure, no
sometimes
problem.
engineers get excited.
The area north of the, I think it's north, it may be west of the racetrack. Is that a wetland I see? Dave?
That is a wetland that is a wetland.
It is a wetland.
It has been mitigated years ago,
Oh, nice.
although there is some discussion on that with the water management agency, as well as the wetland mitigation bank people, and Ron has been tasked with finding those credits, and he's diligently working on it. It is a buildable site, and we could build on it. This does not lend itself to that just because of the site size.
Well, if we mitigated it years ago, why would we be even considering a mitigation bank?
We paid for the mitigation bank. This is the issue. That was originally our industrial park, which is what you see today. But what you don't see is the original design did not have Piper Road running through it. So we changed our industrial park design to allow for Piper Road. Piper Road ran through the mitigation area. So we paid for the mitigation credits as part of our industrial park permit. Piper Road then used it, but then we never followed through with filling it. So we would need to get a new permit from the Water Management District, which is not a big deal. We have, and we'd have to get approval again from the Corps, which is, again, not a big deal.
Good luck.
But we have to find the credits again, and that bank has been sold 4 times since then. But I have all faith that we could do it. But yes, it is a wetland, and I know that's a long answer.
East of the racetrack. Is that going to screw up the parking for anything we have going on there for the racetrack?
The racetrack does not lease that land.
I mean, isn't that overflow parking though?
They use it for overflow parking.
So what are we going to do in that case? If we have a couple buildings there?
The racetrack, keep in mind, the racetrack's lease is ending and going to fair market value in a year and a half. So I don't think we will be there in that time period, I think.
I got you.
I personally, I like the 4-building location because it gives us more opportunity for expansion. If this is successful, and if you look at Benderson, and if you look at what Southwest Land is doing, I think it's Southwest Land Developers or FPC, is doing in the industrial park south of us, this would be a very similar product. It is something that's not available in Charlotte County. It's something that's desperately needed. And I think our current financial position lends us into making these types of investments. I can't guarantee you we'll rent it out 100% day one. We may need to hire a broker, and we have a brokerage agreement out there, but hire an independent broker to just market this for us. But Mr. Benderson's been pretty successful building these all over the place. And,
absolutely.
James, whatever happened to at one time, wasn't there a proposed spec building to be built somewhere out here or maybe in the industrial park south of us?
There is one currently under construction in the industrial park
there's
south
one.
of us.
And what type of design is that thing?
Go to the next. That's it.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah. I borrowed this from there.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've discussed with the contractor building that a lot to try and get some of their pro forma data. I have not put a pro forma together yet. I would like to get some preliminary numbers and then bring that
Well,
back.
that was my next question. Is it $12? Is that current market or is that just, I don't know what the
$12 is what it would need to be. Current market
I'm not in commercial.
is probably, it is.
I'll work on that.
That is what it's.
That's what they're going.
Yeah.
You don't see this thing, well, I guess it could be a storage building facility like you see going up all over town,
Self-storage.
Self-storage.
I don't think you have the rooftops in this area to support something like that.
Something like that. But, if you look at what is in some of the Benderson developments, it's everything from used car dealerships for the higher end, used cars, classic cars, exotics, to small manufacturing and 5,000, 10,000 square feet. So I think it's just an opportunity that's currently only available in a new building that's not finished yet. And I 2 years ago I wouldn't have suggested it because we didn't have the capital to put into it, but I think it's a good use of our current capital situation, and it would give us, a foot into the commercial development that we haven't had in a long time.
You made an interesting statement, which brings up another justification for tilt slab. It becomes a more secure building.
It does.
And if you got people with exotic cars, I think there's one down on 75. It's a slab building, and guys store their high-dollar cars in them, and that gives you another market opportunity.
No, I would definitely lean towards a tilt-up building, just because we've been so successful with those in the past, and definitely maintenance is easier.
Jim Benderson, all his facilities, the key is distribution, and the fact that we have Piper and we can connect to Jones Loop or 17.
No, I think we're in a very good location for logistics companies. That's why we're looking at doing multiple drive-in and dock-high, so that you can have that combination.
Go back to your site plan real quick. I have one quickie.
Okay.
Our fill over there on Cheney Way, is that ready for pads, basically?
So we took all of the excess fill that came from a county project years ago. They needed a place to store it and spread it along Cheney Way. What's real close to the access point to Cheney Brothers facility is pretty much pad ready. The sites to the south would require probably another foot and a half of fill just to have drainage put in. But
Thank you, James.
the piles that you see on the east side of Cheney Way are topsoil, actually very not good, not engineered fill. So those
berm
need to be
material.
removed or used in berms.
Yeah.
And
Fill in wetlands.
yes, fill in wetlands,
good.
non-structural fill.
All right. Do we need a motion here for anything?
If possible, I'd like to have a motion just to move forward with a design build proposal, and then I would bring that back for approval.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we move forward or authorize Mr. Parrish to move forward with a design build proposal for the construction of a spec building as presented.
Spec buildings. Was there an S on that? Yes, ma'am. All right, we have a motion for approval.
Second.
I hear a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Commissioner comments. We'll start down here with Kathleen.
I think this was a great meeting. Very interesting. Very forward-thinking, very forward-looking. Thank you.
Got a lot accomplished. Thank you. Commissioner Hansick.
I think it was a very productive meeting, and I think the solution with our cabinet company is a good one. And wish we would have done it last month, but it's going to be good.
Well, Jim, that proposal basically that he was talking about came forward from Mr. Goins, right?
Yes.
What we're considering right now. So I think
It was
key.
like you had mentioned in that meeting that he proposed something that we can work with, and that turned out good.
Absolutely. Mr. Andrews.
I can't say much to improve what everyone else has said, other than thank everyone for coming. It was very productive, and look forward to next month.
Commissioner Oliver.
Yes, thank you, everyone, for a good meeting. I'm obviously very happy with the result of the golf contours issue. I think it's a win-win for everyone. One random thing is I was flying into the airport the other week, and I happened to be in the restroom in the baggage claim area, and there was a mom in there that was struggling to change her baby because there was no changing table in that. Could we, at some point, do an inventory of our restrooms in the terminal and make sure that every bathroom is equipped with a changing area?
There is one in the family restroom in arrivals. It's right next to my office. There's a changing table in every family restroom, and there's.
She might not have seen it because it probably.
I was going to say, is that on the same side? There's like the men's and the women's room,
It's
and
right
then
next to it.
Done?
yes.
Yeah, very good. James, anything to say before we close?
No.
Attorney Hackett?
Thank you very much for having me here today. I enjoy getting the snapshot into what's going on. That's great.
Is your partner still alive on the Inca Trail somewhere?
I've not heard from him in a week, so I don't know.
All right, with that being said, Commissioner Deutsch, it's good to see you. I think we should invite Commissioner Deutsch to the podium.
Please don't.
But it said commissioner comments, so I just.
It's true.
You and Jim, the two Jims are well aware of this, but I just want to say for the record that we're committed, as you know, to being supportive and working with the airport. And in that line, David and our economic development folks are here Jim, to whatever degree you folks want to assist and be supportive of the airport. So I just want to share that with you.
Thank you, sir.
It's one of our gems in the county. We're going to have a lot more, particularly after the 10-hour meeting the other day. But I just want you to know you can count on whatever support you can get from the county, and particularly now the economic development part.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Appreciate that. And I know we had John Miller from Punta Gorda in the audience. I think he might have left. I know Dr. Pitts was here. Is he still here? Yeah, he is. Thanks, John, for attending. And Jerry Paul, great to see you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And I believe with that being said, this meeting is adjourned.